Well, first of all, let me thank all of you for being here. That seems to me to be the most appropriate thing I can say right now. I've looked over the notes that I made before I came, and I'm generally kind of confident about what will come out of my mouth after I do that. But I have to say today that I'm not quite certain. I have many, many, many friends here. This impresses me more like a family reunion than some historical presentation. And so, to be honest, I have to let you know that my friends tricked me. I didn't expect this to be a toast or a tribute to me. I thought that I was doing the second part of a history of the unfolding of Prince George's County that involved a little cameo that was me. It was something I was very proud of. I mean, there's been nothing in my life to compare to the great privilege and honor of serving you as the first African-American county executive. And to be able to do it in a place that quite literally has been blessed with God's favor, to be a one-of-a-kind jurisdiction, not just in America, but in the history of America. This is the only jurisdiction in the history of America where it was transformed from a little sleepy southern hollow when I was a child that was small, virtually all white and rural, to being large, majority African American and cosmopolitan, and where income and education went up and not down. There's not another example of that anywhere in America or in the history of America. It is you, it is us. Now, I was blessed to have the great honor and challenge, as Baker said, to serve in the tail end of the last century and the beginning of this one. And I always wanted to do a good job on behalf of the people I represented and all of you. And I was taught from childhood forward that it is a corporate responsibility. It's everybody's togetherness responsibility to take the great favor that the Lord blesses you with, to spotlight the advantages that you have, to promote good principles and values and the ideals of excellence and hard work and fortitude and guts, and to take that and to transform it and to do your part to advance this community and this country over its checkered past, over the deranged atrocities of slavery and discrimination, to a new place. And I got lucky. I was sort of landing in the right place at the right time in the right community with the right folks giving you the right kind of direction that you actually felt you could do these things. I applaud my family for I was about to say putting up with me, then I remembered it's a two-way street. You all couldn't see Taylor smirking at me when Baker was saying all those nice things. But no, I just tease. I am blessed to have a great family and folks with marvelous principles and good kids. And I've had great friends. And my brother here I've been working with for years, my big brother. You know, I'm going to perfect him soon. He's been a great and powerful influence in my life and how those things I talked about, those ingredients came together. My good buddy, Russ Shipley, I can't even believe is here, was my first law partner and part of that other history that I talked about last time, that, you know, where God's sense of humor smiled on Prince George's County and me, and Russ was an incredible part of that. I don't see Kenny, who also was that, but these guys and I developed relationships that weren't predicated on popular themes like affirmative action or any of that, but just the common decency that people share between each other for folks that can do things and that feel the same spirit. And Russ, I thank you for being here. I know how important your weekends are to you. And You know, you the man. I appreciate that very much. And as it is with so many of you here, I had prepared a different kind of commentary for today, and I'm going to do a little bit of it in its original spirit because I think that I owe that to myself and to all of you. I lived that great transformation. I don't have to be told about it. I can't be lied to about it. I've tried my best over decades now to correct infirmities in the history that gets recited to us about Prince George's County because I lived it. I don't need anybody to give me a false recitation of what it meant to live here or grow up here or to endure and persevere to make progress here. I know what those things are. And these are the things that I've shared with most of you, and I'm going to be careful to share them correctly today too, because some of y'all go back so far with me, you could actually tell on me. You could get me straight, so I can't get too big-headed about this. You know, I enjoyed making history. I enjoyed winning an improbable battle. I enjoyed upsetting the apple cart. I enjoyed taking a fledgling force of new people who had moved to Prince George's County and using it to advance our community with that election. I enjoyed that. I'm not going to lie about it. It was a wonderful fulfillment of a bunch of values that I had been taught. But I also thought that it was more important to make sense than to make history. I enjoyed making history. And for a minute, I enjoyed winning. I got all swole up, went out, got me a new tuxedo, won the election, I'm gonna be the man. Walked into the first transition meeting and discovered we were broke. I remembered the indisputable words of my grandmama, boy, you can't help nobody when you broke. So we had challenges and great fiscal hurdles in front and ahead of us. And a brand new, never before elected and black county executive to whom few people would accredit the common sense and prowess to take a multi-billion-dollar government in trouble and turn it around. But I've been blessed to have been in a lot of things, zoning and banking and healthcare and general counseling and hospitaling and a lot of different things and labor relations and stuff like that. So it wasn't your ordinary brew, in spite of the fact that I looked black. Damn. So we started on this fiscal rehabilitation, we'll call it. And I know there are some in here who suffered as I did through that period when we were cutting a lot of things. And the absolute most memorable headline from that whole period where I was hacking and cutting and making the budget work was in the Washington Times that said, Wayne Curry says do less with less. Yeah. And we took all the money we could amass and we gave it to public safety and education. And I begged my friends in Annapolis to give me some help with finances, and they giggled and said, you beat us, and your punishment will be spending the next couple of years in financial purgatory and pain, and maybe after that we'll call it even. Interesting. Now, as I said, I've been trying to perfect my older brother here. If y'all had grown up with me, you would know that for me, all that meant was, oh, we get ready to have a fight? You should have told me when I came in. I'd have been smiling already, So I did something that to them looked stupid. And it was to try to right the ship and get the money and make us healthy again. I decided that I was going to repeal trim. I'm going to run a campaign to repeal trim. My entire political career, I had been warned, like everybody else, that trim is the third rail of local politics. If you grab it, it's like stepping on the wrong thing at the metro station. You're going to be a crispy critter, and which is, of course, what they wanted. You know that, Broadwater. They were like, you won? I'm going to fix you for that, you know. But as my brother would tell you, I'm a little hard-headed. I'm sure my wife wouldn't co-sign that. So I said, man, I'm going to do what I think is right for the children in the schools. And so we ran this campaign to repeal trim. And it did have consequence. But the consequence wasn't the lies that had been promoted. It wasn't the mythology of powerlessness that we had been taught. I was pretty popular in spite of the fact that we didn't have money, because I kept doing what I said I would do, which is try real hard, be straight with you about doing it, and take the tough course and tough action. As soon as it's over, I'll fix it. You remember that, Doc. We didn't always agree about how to do that with Dr. Thornton and the school board, but I kept doing what I said I'd do and pursuing this money and this opportunity. And so the consequence was that I lost popularity by 1/2%. That was the great third rail of local politics. That was the great be fearful of trim. 1/2%. Nothing else changed. Because everybody who said, I don't like you taxing me, was replaced by somebody who said, I never met a politician that did what he said he was going to do. And so it had no effect. And that's much like some of the mythology we were taught when I was a kid. You can't do this, you can't do that. You know, you'll never be able to do all these things everybody else does. Of course, I never believed that. My neighbor, who was a virtual lifelong president of the NAACP, never believed that. My dad, who sent us to integrate the schools, never believed that. And we came never to believe that. In fact, the opposite was that we came to believe that we could do anything that we wanted to do and did. And that's the legacy that I hope will be a structural gift to legions of children who come behind us, and to other leaders, Baker, Mel, Maryland, that have followed that to make this an even greater county than it is today. That's what I'd like to do. I'd like to never have to look into the face, look into the face of another Wall Street rating agency analyst across the table from me, who told me the first time I went to Wall Street and was sitting there trying to preserve our bond rating, that after 10 minutes of listening to me, and I got to tell you, Roy, I was at my eloquent best that day. And I had prepared for 2 days. I crammed and everything, had my whole staff. I'm locked in a conference room with these people stinking for 3 days, and we're all in there together. So by the time we get to New York, I am on it. And 15 minutes into it, this guy was fidgeting, squirming so hard. I mean, what is wrong with you? He said, well, we appreciate, Mr. Executive, your preliminary remarks about your fiscal challenge. And we were sort of hoping that we could get through this political part and hear from the people who are with you, who actually know what they're talking about. I said, well, let me see if I got this straight. You want me to hurry up and be quiet so you can listen to the people that I pay and brought with me, so they can comfort and reassure you that I'm going to fix this situation. Well, yes, I wouldn't have said it like that, Mr. Curry, but sort of like that. So, well, let me tell you how I talk in situations like this. I'm going to talk as long as I care to, thank you, Trinice. And this one right here has been assigned to kick me if I say something wrong. And that one right there is the one, you know, who wrote the outline on fixing the labor agreements. And this one over here is the one that analyzed the budget. And if I screw up, I'm sure that one of them be happy to fill in the equation. But if you don't mind, why don't I just keep talking? You lean back in your chair, and if I mess up, Calvin, I said, then you can interrupt me and I'll ask one of them what I did wrong. So he read back. And at the conclusion of the presentation, he was impressed. And he asked me, he said, "You're going to do all those things? You're going to change labor agreements?" Yep. And I did. "You're going to take promised raises from people?" Yep. And I did. "You're going to do all these, what they came to call draconian things?" And I did. So we were at the elevator leaving, and I was all proud of myself. Yeah, I handled that. and the main raider was getting on the elevator with me. He said, "Mr. Curry, I got to tell you, man, that was one great presentation, but I think we might still have to downgrade y'all." I said, "Well, I'm having trouble analyzing this stuff again. Here we go." And by that time, we were on first name basis. Rich, let me explain something to you. I just gave you a flawless presentation on how I was going to fix the worst fiscal challenge this community's ever seen. And you applauded me for it. And now you're going to tell me that you're going to downgrade me for promising to fix it while you left intact the rating for the guy that did it. How's that work? Well, let me tell you what I'm going to do, because that's where I lose all the decorum I've been taught. All these years in finishing school. Out under one street lamp or another. And I said, "Well, let me tell you how I'm going to do this. If you downgrade us, I'm going to the Washington Post and the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, and every other newspaper I can find, and I'm going to call you a straight-up racist. Because I'm fixing it, you applauded it, and you're going to downgrade me instead of the guy that did it, and you let him be intact the whole time he was doing it. Which one of us is credible?" So that's what I'm going to do. So I went back to my office 2 days later. He called up, "Oh, Mr. Curry." I could no longer call him Rich. "Well, Richie, what?" "We've reconsidered our position." I said, "Oh, that is so nice of you. I think I'll reconsider mine too. Glenda, would you fold up that editorial that I was writing?" So let make sure Rich could hear that, and move forward. So that was the most challenging thing I think that we had in front of us. And when we earned some credibility doing that, it actually gave momentum to everything else that we had to do. We knew we had to grow the tax base. We had to change housing policy. For years people had screamed and chanted affordable housing, and we won. We had more affordable housing than anybody in the entire region. We had no executive housing. So I was down there pushing and shoving and talking about executive housing, and that worked out as well, although there's some creep going on now, Mr. Baker, about how much affordable we get compared to Fairfax, Montgomery, Howard, Loudoun, Prince William, all these places, because we're competing against 7 of the 10 richest counties in America. Every day when you strap it on to go educate your kids, to get a job, to build or buy a house, every day you putting on your equipment against 7 of the 10 most powerful counties in America. I don't feel bad about that. That's a challenge like the kind I faced when I was a kid. And furthermore, we're in the top 60 in America. There's 3,000 counties, so we bad too. But we're competing against 7 of the top 10. So we got to have our game together every day. And that housing and being careful not to let forces resegregate Prince George's County is a very important thing to do. So I think going forward, there are things like that we have to keep our eyes on. And lastly, let me say this and shut up. When I decided to run, and I had been involved in the Democratic Party for a long time, guys told me, "So what? No, I'm not going to help you. I'm not endorsing you. You haven't paid your dues." And the most powerful of them said, "You ain't nothing but a legend in your own mind." Like, dang. That's kind of cold, after all these years. But I knew something they didn't. I knew you existed. And I knew that while people were saying that they were talking to this new public, they weren't. So I went right out to parking lots and liquor stores and 7-Elevens and places like that with my little bumper stickers. You can see some in the case over there, and begging people to put them on their cars and telling them what I wanted to do, and building up this little mobile billboard force is what it amounted to. And then after the mobile billboard force worked and people started volunteering, we started doing yard signs. And we had a law in Prince George's County that said, essentially, the opposition can tell you when you can put up a yard sign. I was like, what? Yep, 90 days before election, you can put up a yard sign. I said, well, I went to law school and stuff. I graduated with honors. In the law school I went to, there was a First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution that said political speech, the most protected speech in America. I put up signs anytime I want to. No, can't do it in Prince George's County. Well, I thought the Constitution applied here too. So I got my buddy Greg Wells here, and we filed a little lawsuit. And of course, we invalidated the law, because the law was just designed to make sure you didn't have any power. Because it's the cheapest way to get recognition is with bumper stickers and yard signs. So we disallowed that. So we did it anyway. We won the case, and we started, knocking on doors, getting these things up. And then we had a force building, and people began to pay attention. And the same person who had said he's just a legend in his own mind, when confronted again by a reporter, said, well, what do you think now? And by that time, I had $500,000 in the bank. I was raising Cain. I had done another inconceivable thing, which was have a developer for a campaign chairman. They said, you can't do that either. I said, watch. And so he looked up and he said, the last time somebody asked me about Curry, I actually gave an honest quote. He said, don't matter what I say about him, because whatever I say is going to be interpreted against me, so I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to say a word. I'm going to let the campaign speak for itself. And because of all of you, you've established a premise now that reinforces everything I was ever taught. This is a powerful place. Prince George's County is the most dominant Democratic force in the state of Maryland. Nobody can win anything at a high level in the state of Maryland without huge support out of Prince George's County. That support is you. Now, I'm not a great biblical scholar. I'm sure some of you all know a lot more about church than I do. But whenever I go, I love the preachers that can make the Bible relevant to now, to my life, to your kids, your situation. And I remember this story about God instructing people to go over there in the land of milk and honey. I've given it to you. All you got to do is go occupy it. And they sent some scouts out to check it out. And the scouts came back and said, you must have lost your mind. There's giants over there. Man, we can't beat those guys. You sure God didn't make a mistake? God don't make mistakes. I told you go occupy the land. You come back and say you don't have the heart to do it. So when I look at numbers and democracy in Maryland, blue state, everybody gets elected out of Baltimore, Prince George's, Charles, a little bit of Montgomery. And you're the biggest force in the state. And your schools in Baltimore and Prince George is 23 and 24, out of 24. You're not using your power. You're scared of the giants in the land of milk and honey. So we got to get past that part. And there's some really smart people in this room that know how to do that. I've seen them do it before. Dr. Thornton being back there all erected. He's a picture erected to now. He's the president's advisor at school. But the dude is brilliant. And he knows all of this kind of stuff. But we live in a state where, as Frederick Douglass says, power concedes nothing without a demand. Never has and never will. The power to demand whatever you want and will get is right here in this room, in this county, in this community. It's got special favor and special, very special dispensation from God. And it's that legacy that I reflect, and I only reflect it And I thank you for what's been obviously a very flattering and humbling afternoon, because I was all set to pull my sword out, start talking about big fights we had over the stadium and all this kind of stuff, and everybody be in here all dressed up and nice and resplendent and shining and talking about it's a toast, a tribute. I wore the wrong uniform. But I do thank you. It's been a wonderful day for me. I apologize for talking so long, but I want somebody to pick. Karen, I didn't see you over there earlier, Madam Counselor. How are you, Councilwoman Karen Toll? Somebody pick up the gauntlet, count these numbers, get the binoculars, and look at all that stuff on the other side of this land of milk and honey, because it's all yours. In this blue state, it is all yours. Anyway, thank you very much. I'm through pontificating.
One of the things that I used to do that Mr. Curry hated, he told Glenda, please tell Bailey to stop doing that. I don't like it. It's inappropriate. It's country just like she is. But we're going to do it today. So I'm going to ask everybody to stand. Again. Right hand towards Mr. Curry, and you'll see why he didn't like it. Point your hand towards him, because it's real. What he did was real. When we were working on the stadium, I wasn't too sure. I said, I don't know about that, Wayne. He said, Bailey, it's not about, I said, I don't even like football. He said, it's not about you. It's not about football. It's about what we can bring to this county. You will be riding by there, and those streets will be better. It would take them 20 years to do those roads. Stop thinking about yourself. Think about the citizens, and that's what he did every single day. And so, Mr. Curry, I want y'all to repeat after me. He's getting nervous. Repeat after me, Mr. Curry.
Mr. Curry.
I'm a part of you.
I'm a part of you.
You're part of me.
You're a part of me.
And we love you.
And we love you.
We sure enough love you. And there's nothing you can do about it. I got him. Okay, thank you. Thank you.